survive. But the commander called and wanted to ask the chief engineer and Ayaba for help. Meanwhile, Dio noticed Alfred wasn't fighting back, but he wasn't not wanting to fight. He was waiting for someone else to fight instead. That person was none other than Hina. She was a soldier of the Republic and a formidable close combat pilot highly regarded by the Republic. She isolated Dio from the others, and everyone worried that Alfred was trying to arrange to capture Dio for the Republic. At this moment, the chief engineer called to report that Ayaba was ready for battle. The commander apologized for dragging a civilian like him into the battle, but he had no other choice. Ayaba didn't blame him because doing something in battle was better than waiting to die. Hearing that another mecha was coming, Alfred told Hina to try to keep Dio as far away as possible, but she then saw Dio suddenly jerk back. He was trying to get close to Ayaba to synchronize once more. Both of them then synchronized with each other and successfully transformed. Dio then left Hina for Ayaba to handle while he flew off to chase Alfred. He had recharged his cannon and aimed at Dio, but he dodged 2 consecutive shots, forcing Alfred to call for support. Hina wanted to return but was stopped by Ayaba. Dio's synchronization had ruined Alfred's plan. One enemy was about to aim at Dio, but he circled behind and shot him down on the spot. The enemy was forced to support each other in retreating. Hina, still eager for victory, continued to fight with Ayaba only to be slashed once, revealing her pilot cabin. Ayaba recognized it was Hina, so he forcibly stopped synchronizing, affecting Dio. He opened his cockpit to go and take Hina away, but she had regained consciousness and didn't know him. Hina's teammate flew in to attack Ayaba, but Conrad stepped in to block him and told Ayaba to take Hina if he wanted but not to be so reckless. So Ayaba returned to the cockpit despite Hina shooting at him. The enemy then rushed in to take Hina away, and Alfred fired a shot that hit Conrad. They successfully retreated afterwards. Although Conrad wasn't hurt, Ayaba's side was also forced to withdraw. Upon returning, Ayaba was questioned for opening the cockpit to talk to the enemy during battle, nearly costing Conrad his life. Dio didn't care who Hina was because he only cared about 2 things on the battlefield: enemy forces and friendly forces. But the engineer didn't blame Ayaba because it was thanks to him that the entire ship survived to reach the supply station. Ayaba intended to apologize to Conrad, but he didn't blame Ayaba since he had saved them twice, so he shouldn't feel too guilty. Meanwhile, the Republic ordered Hina's arrest on suspicion of being a spy because her name was known by the Federation side. The Federation also had similar suspicions, and some suspected Ayaba was from the Republic. The commander thought it was best to keep Ayaba on probation and under constant surveillance for now. The place they had just landed to refuel was actually where Ayaba used to live, so he asked Mayu to take him on a tour of the area. He went to where his home used to be, but it had been leveled for redevelopment. He thought about looking for his sister, but realized that if she were alive, she'd be 88 years old by now, so he didn't. Mayu also tried to search, but found no information, so they both went to Ayaba's old school, which was completely destroyed by the war. He went to the old basketball court and remembered Hina. Ayaba asked Mayu about the Republic's position because he decided to meet Hina once more to talk. She thought it was too dangerous because he had been seen in the recent battle, but he also thought it was crazy because they were at war now. He then returned to the ship with Mayu, but he considered giving up fighting because he didn't want others to get hurt because of him. However, Mayu, like everyone else, didn't blame him and saw him as a savior. Remembering what everyone had said, he still decided to participate. He went to see the commander and agreed to be a pilot for him because it was the only way he could be useful, and he might be able to meet Hina again. The commander wanted him to be sure because she might see him as an enemy who couldn't be spared. Dio was the only one who opposed. The fact that everyone accepted letting him continue to pilot the robot made Dio uncomfortable. He was then promoted to second lieutenant and went to share this with Conrad. The girl here, Vera, told him not to force synchronization next time or both his and Dio's brains would be seriously damaged. That night, The commander also felt lucky that Ayaba decided to return, otherwise he would have had to shoot him to protect national secrets. The next morning, just as they set out, there was suddenly an announcement that a nearby cargo ship was attacked by Republic soldiers. They immediately went to assist, and Mayu informed Ayaba that the synchronization time was only 6 minutes, so they had to be quick. Dio seemed to obey orders but didn't like having to synchronize with Ayaba. Synchronization couldn't succeed because both sides had to trust each other. Due to the lack of trust, the process failed. They had to fight normally, but Dio recognized the emblem on the attacked ship as his family's, so they had to help Dio save his family as he had rushed in impatiently. Ayaba contacted Dio and shared that he would help Dio protect his family, so they would temporarily trust each other again to synchronize. They quickly cut down all enemies and separated the enemy ship from Dio's family's ship. Taking that opportunity, the command ship immediately shot down the enemy ship. They then escorted Dio's family's ship to the airport, and he immediately ran to meet his family. He was happy to see his sister again, but his father thought staying in this place was a waste of time. The next day, Ayaba still didn't quite understand Dio's situation when suddenly Mayu and another person, Lieutenant Jisaka, came to find him. Both of them informed him that from now on, they would be Ayaba's trainers. At this time, the commander had to deal with a lot of paperwork and procedures, which made him very tired. He asked the vice captain about their 2 trump cards, and learned that Dio, after having issues with his family, had gone off to train, while Ayaba, as known, was being sent for training as per the ship's tradition. After hearing Jisaka's briefing, Ayaba felt everything was too rigid now and wanted to leave. But Mayu kept him back because this was partly an excuse to take him on a tour. Ayaba was made to clean around the ship, including the bathrooms, and was also dragged to help in the kitchen and other places. Meanwhile, Hina had been released, and Alfred wanted her to prove her loyalty to the Republic through actions. This guy named Bison seemed to be very interested in Hina, but she only saw him as a teammate, nothing more. Ayaba, tired of cleaning the ship, stopped working. Suddenly, he saw Dio's sister trying to enter, but being held back by soldiers. He went down to ask and learned she was Fiona, Dio's sister. She was afraid to meet Dio, fearing he was still angry due to their father's words yesterday. She also didn't dare to leave early, fearing Dio would feel guilty. It was revealed that Dio had participated in a battle in their hometown before and couldn't save his mother, and Fiona's leg was injured then. Dio blamed himself for not being able to do anything that time, so he didn't dare to face his family. Ayaba decided to help. He pretended to have a stomach ache in front of the soldiers to help Dio's sister and the servants sneak in. They then went to the command room to ask about Dio's location, only to find they were organizing a party to welcome Ayaba. The reason for making him clean was to keep him away while they prepared the party. They then called Dio and asked him to come to the command room to talk with his sister. However, suddenly a battle alert appeared. The Federation forces at sea were being outnumbered by the Republic, so they needed to go provide support. Dio met his sister to finish their conversation, and she forgave him, saying he had no fault and to ignore anyone who blamed him. Dio felt relieved, but just as they were about to depart, enemy forces arrived to block them, led by Alfred. They had to change plans and fight at the base here before going to provide support. Ayaba once again encountered Hina. They had to let Dio synchronize to turn the tide, but their positions were quite far apart, so the command ship had to retreat from the battle zone. However, they were also surrounded by other enemy ships and had no escape route. The captain had to make the decision to abandon the base to escape with the ship. At this point, Hina was overwhelming Ayaba because he wasn't fighting back. Dio had to come to the rescue. Dio wanted Ayaba to stop engaging with Hina because they had orders to retreat from the base, so they should use the synchronized form to accelerate. Both of them rushed straight ahead of the command ship and formed a shield to allow the ship to accelerate. No matter how much the enemy fired, their shots were deflected. They bought enough time for the ship's cannon to charge and fire at the enemy command ship. The Republic commander fired back in vain and almost wet herself as the command ship rushed straight at her. But a collision didn't occur, and the Federation temporarily preserved their forces. Back on the ship, everyone could finally breathe easily, and Dio managed to say a word of thanks because Ayaba had helped his sister and him. Not long after, the matter of a part of the Federation secretly researching synchronization technology was exposed, largely due to Dio and Ayaba. Therefore, an inspection team would be coming soon to observe Ayaba and Dio along with their mechas. The commander wanted the vice captain and some others to wear swimsuits for a promotional video to attract more supporters for them. Just then, the passenger ship arrived. Ayaba had heard about the upcoming promotional team and thought it strange to have such things during wartime. But this was to help gain more supporters and trust in the synchronization mechanism. The promotional team then entered and was very surprised to see the two mechas and their pilots. However, they came mainly to film Dio, so Ayaba didn't need to participate. This time, they had invited someone named From to film the commercial with Dio. From had come to greet Ayaba and asked to borrow his mecha during the commercial shoot. The advertising crew then went to the command room, and the deputy captain showed them the top secret areas that were off limits. From tried to demonstrate how smooth talking he was by showering the deputy captain with compliments, which she obviously didn't care about. Meanwhile, Mayu and her friend Rose planned to check out the guys from the advertising crew. As soon as Rose met From, she immediately switched to boy crazy mode and asked to lead the entire advertising crew on a tour of the ship. Dio silently left, so Ayaba had to chase after him to ask if he knew From. He did know him, as they had attended the same training